very welcome. What a beautiful day. And you're very welcome to the Coffee at 11 show with my very special guest this morning, a lady I've known for many years, and it is Sharon Collopy of the Soul Sanctuary. Sharon, say hello to us, please, and show us your cup of tea.
Good morning, Colm, and good morning, everybody. It's absolutely lovely to be here with you all, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm incredibly grateful to you.
Well, it's indeed our pleasure. It's our pleasure, Sharon. So looking forward to the chat. Let me just tell you all before we bring the lady in herself, in her own words, let me just tell you some of the stuff that I know about Sharon. So her business name is the Soul's Sanctuary. What does your business do? Holistic wellness and mindfulness. How long? Established 10 years. You must have been 12, were you?
Thanks for that.
How many employees? Just me. And Sharon goes on to say she is a holistic wellness and mindfulness practitioner and tutor with over 10 years experience offering wellness treatment and education in both the private and corporate wellness sectors. As a result of years of experience working with many people from all walks of life, all of whom are searching for ways to experience greater health and happiness in their lives, Sharon strongly believes that true wellness is generated from having a healthy relationship with our mind. Don't think anybody would disagree with that, Sharon. Having experienced the life-changing benefits in her own personal practice of mindfulness, coupled with giving witness to how transformative mindfulness has been for her many clients over the years, this is what drives Sharon. And what's really interesting, and you won't believe about Sharon when we get into this chat, is she's actually shy, right? And Sharon is also a very spiritual lady, and I'm quite confident that that will shine through this morning. Sharon Collopy, great pleasure having you on the Coffee at 11 show. You're very welcome. In your own words, please introduce us to Sharon Collopy, the woman, prior to the Soul Sanctuary, please.
Oh, okay, big question. Where to begin? I suppose just to go back to early days. I'm one of three. I have two younger brothers. I'm the eldest of the three. And I grew up with a lot of love in my family. But as you've mentioned, I was a very shy little girl. And I remember actually a particular time when I had a school teacher in primary school, Mrs. Brannock. Isn't it incredible? You will always remember the names of the people who left this impression upon you for all sorts of reasons. But I was so shy that when she would speak to me, I'd cover my face with my arm. And I like to recall that story, you know, because for me, it's important for me to embrace that natural tendency I have to be shy and to be naturally introverted, but to realize also that within me there was all of this desire and yearning to let that light shine. So Mrs. Brannock, as well as many others, started to help guide me along the way and lead me out of that shyness, if you like. So grew up, happy childhood, reached the age of 19, and at that point in time, my dad, a very young man, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and within 7 weeks he had passed away. So I was in college for that stage, had a sense around where I was going with my life, but after my dad's passing, that all changed. Our family, it crumbled, really. And I don't think any of us really knew how to cope individually. And we most certainly did not know how to cope as a family. So from that point then, that was really a pivotal moment for me, where I would say from that point onwards, I began to just kind of survive life, whereby I had no really clear sense around who I was, what I wanted, what were the callings of my own soul, what was honouring my truest nature and what wasn't. And I just went through the motions. And I would say for the 20 years that followed the passing of my dad, I lived out of a place of fear. I lived out of a place of a lack of self-worth, to be honest with you. And no real sense of where I was going, no real sense of self-respect, no real direction. But all that began to change for me. Through my 30s, the changes were coming. And then I suppose I reached that age, approaching a big age, like approaching the big 40. And the yearnings inside of me were so strong at that point that I had to do something. I knew that I had to begin to change my life. I had returned to my faith as well at that point. I had been brought up Catholic, but I probably hit 1920, went through those wilderness years as many of us do. But around the age of 37, 38, I was attending a funeral mass for a family member, and the parish priest asked me to read at mass. This was a big deal, to read at my aunt's funeral mass in the first place, but then to become a regular reader afterwards. This was someone who struggled to find her voice, speak out and speak her truth. And now all of a sudden, I was asked to read and become a regular reader at Mass. I realised that that priest, Father Austin, was another person who played a pivotal role on my journey. I said yes because I could, at that time I didn't know how to say no. So I said yes to most things. I was just so grateful that somebody would see something in me that I couldn't see in myself. So I said yes, even though I was scared, I did it anyway. And through those years of beginning to read, it became less about me and became more about the lessons and my faith. So that probably brings me to the point, at 39, my life on the outside looked wonderful. It looked really glamorous, it looked really pretty, and it looked very successful to anyone looking from the outside in. Inside, I was crumbling. Inside, I suppose, I was dying a little bit.
And Sharon, if I may just come in here at this moment in time, because I think we've all, in those last few minutes, we've managed to live your early years with you, and thank you for that, and thank you for being so honest with us. Before we go, I just want to lose some of the nuggets that you shared. So. Terribly sorry on behalf of everybody in the cafe here about you losing your dad at an early age, and lots of people have been through that. I'm fortunate mine are still alive, but lots of people have been through that. But I think the honesty came from the fact that when you lost your dad, the family began to crumble. You know, that heartbreaking. You lost your way, and it took you the wilderness years to go through, and then you began to honour your truth. Going back to the shyness thing and Mrs. Bratnock, that you said we remember the names of those people in our lives that touch us, and I think you're right. I think everybody in the cafe today can think of somebody back in the day that made a difference, right? And that's so important. Fear, lack of self-worth. And it's really interesting because you brought this little section to a close by saying your life looked glamorous, and you do look glamorous. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, she's part of this dynamic couple. And they are singularly the most dapper couple.
That always makes me smile, yeah.
It's the truth, and I forewarned you, by the way, that John McNamara is on my hit list. He'll be on the show here.
I told him.
Anyway, but and this, we spoke with this before the show, and I was speaking earlier with Janie Lazar. Janie, you're very welcome to the cafe this morning. That there's this, people look at us from the outside, and all they see is the facade. They just see the presentation, right? And they've no idea what's going on under the surface, which is why I'm loving this, Sharon, and I really want to honour you and thank you for coming in and being honest, because this is about real people being real in front of other real people, to real people go out and be real. Right, just made that up.
I found it great.
It did. Sarah Ward, back on the maggot. Okay, listen, we're at the big 4-0, right? 37, 38, 39, heading for the big 4-0. You're beginning to live your truth. Everything looked great, and then where are we now?
Well, as some of your guests will know, at that point I was working for in customer service with quite a well-known hairdressing establishment in Limerick City, and I had worked there for a number of years. And it's kind of like, it got to a point in my life whereby the yearnings within me were so strong that it was scarier to stay stuck in the pain, in the lack of meaning and lack of purpose, than it was to take that leap of faith. So I decided, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that everyone would do it the way I did it. I decided to change everything in one fell swoop. I decided to leave my job. I decided to give up my house. I decided to, John and I were in a relationship and living together at the time. And you know, by me giving up my house, we both had to move back home to our parents. So it was drastic changes. And I had all of my friends, family, and my peers asking me, was I crazy? What was I doing? Was I guaranteed of anything in the future? Was I guaranteed that this change I was making was going to make the difference and be the answer? And I couldn't answer that for them. I didn't know the answer to that for myself. But what I can tell you is this. The fear and the pain of staying stuck in a life that wasn't true for me was scarier than the unknown. It was scarier than the uncertainty. Because when I took the leap of faith and decided to go back to college full time, was back into the box room in my mum's house, which I was incredibly grateful for, by the way, then my life began to change. But what I think is possibly important to say right now is that it was just the beginning. And maybe I naively believed that once I had taken that initial jump, that now it was all going to make sense and now it was all going to be better. And even when I qualified as a therapist after 1 year, I started working with clients. For a while, I kept on some of those spaces because I had to pretend to be the professional. I had to pretend to know all the answers. I had to pretend to have found this nirvana, this inner peace, because this is what they were coming to me for. I had to pretend. So even as a therapist, if I'm being honest, for 2 to 3 years, I was still pretending. So I was still more, my reference point was still outside of me. It was still externalized rather than internalized for a while. But that didn't last very long because I felt like the biggest fraud ever, you know. So it's been a journey. It's been a real journey. So I realized for myself that this wasn't about academia. This wasn't about study because I had went through that year of study, and to prove all of those naysayers wrong, if you like, even though they loved me dearly, I came out top of my class. I was student of the year. I won a scholarship to go back and do teacher training. And that was wonderful. But you see, I was still doing what I had always done. And really, the inner work hadn't fully begun because it was all about what was going on really up in the head, but it wasn't who I was becoming. The becoming part only began much later, you know.
I do know, and again, I'm going to come in here and we're going to give you a round of applause for that. That was that was wonderful. There's an honesty here this morning that I'm delighted with. Perhaps wasn't expecting that you'd be this honest, but very much appreciated on behalf of everybody in the cafe and everybody who listened to the recording in time. So thank you for that, Sharon. Really interesting, you know, you reconnected with your faith. You mentioned that you're Catholic and you connected with that. That's become an important part of who you are. You said to me before the show, you know, you were very relaxed coming in here. You had practiced some mindfulness this morning and you're just open to being a channel for what will come through you, and we thank you for that. And that's why I was watching you in the last few minutes becoming somewhat animated, becoming just getting into the flow, and it was just beautiful. I came in a few times to stop and I said, no.
Yeah.
This is gold, so I let it continue. So it really is gold. So we're at the point where you move back home to your mammy's. I love that, my mammy's bathroom, you know, but you were great. The piece that you were stepping out as a professional but inside feeling like a fraud. However, instead of staying stuck there, you did the inner work necessary till you began to step into your truth. And then we're meeting the real Sharon Collopy today. And she's beautiful, by the way, inside and out. So we wish you every and continued success. So Soul Sanctuary, can you bring us into the Soul Sanctuary and how was it? What were you doing? How was it up until COVID, please?
Okay, so the Soul Sanctuary is a holistic wellness business, and it has been since I qualified way back then. But it started to incorporate mindfulness. About 3 years ago it began, because over the years of working with Soul Sanctuary and trying to get people to realize their worth, realize who they were, knowing that they're enough, honoring their truth, I began to realize that, for me, working with them for an hour or two, once a week or once every couple of weeks for a period of time, even though I was working to empower them to be able to, do this for themselves, there was still a piece missing, and the piece that was missing was mindfulness. Because I began to realize for myself and then for my clients that everything begins and ends in the mind and the relationship that we have with our thoughts. So I became very interested in that whole world of mindfulness. And thankfully, I was able to even bring my faith into that, because when I began to revisit scripture, as I do weekly with a beautiful group of people, I realized that, within the Bible, within the life of Jesus, he's the most mindful person I've ever come across, in terms of living out from that space. So up to COVID, I was working private practice here in my little space at home. I was working in the corporate environment. I would go into different companies, either doing wellness days or lunch and learns or talks and the like. And I'd also begun to offer a program called Gentle Lifestyle, which was a mindfulness meditation program. I ran one series of programs pre-Christmas, and I had begun a second series after Christmas. So I was about midway through these programs when COVID struck. And I suppose between the three groups of people that I've worked with since Christmas, I'm probably talking about maybe 100 people. Even though we have all been interrupted by COVID, we have found other ways to stay connected to each other. And I would probably say daily, I will get some form of message from one of them saying that only for mindfulness, this whole experience would be a lot more difficult. So I've most certainly been using mindfulness for my own journey through COVID, and I believe that many of my clients and many people all over the world have too. So
that sounds lovely. Sounds amazing, and congratulations. 100 people on a program that you've created called Gentle Lifestyle. Is that right? Gentle Lifestyle.
Gentle Lifestyle. Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah, beautiful. Congratulations. Love the fact that you touched on the fact that you said we were interrupted by COVID. I love that.
Yeah.
Only Sharon Collopy can take a worldwide pandemic and say like COVID. So that's great.
Yeah.
But you're right. We were interrupted by COVID, and then you went in and you said we were learning new ways of staying in touch. Do you want to touch on some of those new ways you've learned to stay in touch, please?
Yeah, well, for me, I suppose if I had to take and sum up my whole life, who I am as a person and my work, into a word, I would come up with the word connection, or relationship, if you like. So for me, every day of my life, pre-COVID, during COVID, and most certainly after COVID, I plan on having meaningful connection each and every day that I live. And there's many ways to do that. So whether it be I started to write some letters, go back to the old school stuff, because for me to write a letter, maybe 3 letters a week to people, for them to receive a letter in the post that's not a bill, that's not some kind of, official document, a handwritten letter. I usually tell them what they mean to me and how I feel about them or something like that. I kind of go deep. It's kind of what I do, or it can be a text message, or it can be when I go for my daily walk and I encounter people on the pavement coming towards me, and I might have to step out of the way to keep the 2-meter distance, but I will make an extra effort to meaningfully connect with them through a smile, through an hello, through eye contact. See, I just think we're all searching for a sense of belonging. We're all searching for a sense of feeling connected to something. And if I can, in my own small way, have a meaningful connection with whoever I encounter today, that enriches my life and my experience, So it's not really a giving, it's a receiving, kind of a giving and receiving act, I suppose.
I love it.
In many ways.
It's a beautiful philosophy. By the way, my address is, I don't know. But it really is a beautiful, it's very mindful, dare I say it. You know, you're in the moment, you're walking down the road, you're going to step aside to let somebody pass because of the distancing thing. But you're aware in that moment that you can nod or smile, regardless of whether they nod or smile back. But we all know that, you know, smiling is contagious, and if you smile at somebody, well, then they may smile at somebody.
Yeah.
You know, so congratulations. It's lovely. It's absolutely fabulous. Really interesting. You already touched on post-COVID, but let's go there a little further if you don't mind. Post-COVID, what do you think life will be like for us? What do you think life will be like for you and John? What do you think life will be like for the Soul Sanctuary?
Okay, so maybe I'll begin with me and John. What I will say is, just for context, that pre-COVID, we were living a very busy life. I would often claim that we are two very independent people within a committed marriage. We're best friends. I have my interests, he has his. But because of all of this, we were passing each other out a lot. You know? Our schedules aren't 9 to 5. Since COVID, it's been gorgeous. It's just been gorgeous. Whereby we get to have breakfast, lunch and dinner now most days. Do you know, like we cook. I've started to bake. I'm not great, but I'm trying. John reckons he'll have a sunshine and diabetes after COVID because of my baking. He already has the sunshine. It's just, we've gone back to a simpler way of living. And I think that we've remembered. I've most certainly remembered what's most important. COVID has revealed a lot to me. It's revealed what was working wonderfully well, and you know, it's also revealed and exposed those parts of my life where I've just gotten caught up in the frantic nature again. You know, even though it's good work, even though it's very purposeful work, it's still frantic. You know, I'm still doing a lot and not necessarily being as much as I could have been. So for us, I hope that we don't forget this time. And yes, I don't think it will continue this way for a whole while longer, but I hope that we don't forget. In regards to my business, to be honest with you, I'm not sure, and that's my honest answer. I hope to get back to being able to welcome people back into my home. I hope to be invited back into companies again to share some maybe wisdom or some learnings I have learned for myself. I suspect I really do need to get online more and offer more digitally. There's a bit of a block there. I'm not going to be dishonest with you around that. This most certainly has been very encouraging, this experience of being online. So thank you for that, Colm. I truly appreciate that. Maybe in 10 years' time, I'll name you as one of those pivotal people who made the difference. So I'm not sure. I just know I want to connect in however many ways as I can. And if that means digitally, okay, I'll brave it, you know.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'd be honoured if in 10 years' time you refer to this morning. I'd be particularly honoured if I get a handwritten letter.
That's twice now you've mentioned it.
No,
so
just put it out there. in case you're missing the hints here, you know. All right. Yeah. Listen, a truly beautiful conversation this morning. You know, I think, ladies and gentlemen, please, for Sharon Collopy, just truly beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a joy, you know. I loved that you said COVID has helped us remember. That's really interesting. COVID has helped us remember. Yourself and John, you know, you strike me from looking in from the outside and you described yourselves as best friends for sure. You haven't got the 9 to 5 lifestyle, either of you, in terms of career. But that was a lovely phrase, COVID. You're having breakfast together. I was watching all the ladies going green with envy, dare I say it, on the call here, right? You know, you're having breakfast every day with your best friend, and you are. You're using COVID to remember, and you're hoping that you'll hang on to that when this bubble bursts in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We wish you just every continued success with what you're doing. Sharon, we're going to go to Q&A from the floor in a moment, right? And I'm going to ask you for a tip in a moment. But before I ask you for a tip, we were doing a sound check earlier, ladies and gentlemen, and Sharon chose to read a particular poem, which was stunningly beautiful. So I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind, would you read that for us, please?
Absolutely. I felt very prompted this morning, as I often do, to seek out this poem. So when these prompts come, I pay attention, and here it is. And it's called The Invitation, and it goes like this. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. And if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving, to hide it, or fade it, or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. I want to know if you can be faithless and therefore be trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty, even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't interest me who you are, how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments.
Sharon Collopy, that is a special moment for us all. Thank you very much. It was truly beautiful, truly beautiful. Okay, we've got to come back to earth for a moment, Sharon. That was gorgeous. And by the way, I love the way the universe or the spirit works because truthfully, folks, we were having some sound challenges this morning. And so I asked Sharon to say something so that I could try and figure out what the problem was. And she said, I'll read this poem. And that's why she got to read it here today. So the universe works in mysterious ways and we're very grateful for it. Sharon, that was gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you. Right, Sharon, we are going to go to Q&A from the floor. Whoever's got a question, you might stick up your hand and I'll bring you in a moment. In the meantime, would you offer us one tip? What would you say to your nearest and dearest? You'd get through COVID best, come out the far side in great shape by doing blah. What's that blah for you, please, Sharon?
I suppose the blah for me now is the blah for me most days. It's to stay in the now. It's to stay in the present moment. Because if we're not aware of where the mind wanders to, the mind will wander back to the past and not how things were and keep us stuck there. Maybe with some regret, maybe with some guilt, or I could wander into maybe a fearful future. You know, the anxiety of how is it all going to be? What's it going to look like? How am I going to come through this? I would say stay in the now, stay in today, do the next thing. Pay attention to the little successes and little joys that happen every day because they're all around you. But we find what we look for. And believe me, if we look for what's wrong, we're going to find it. But then, if that's true, if I look for what's right, and if I look towards who am I becoming in the midst of all this, and knowing, like, COVID really can't take away anything of value from us, not really. Not anything that's rich within us. It can only enhance it if we just maybe get out of our own way and allow it to happen. Know that you're enough, know that you always have been, you always will be, and know that we'll be okay.
Just fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. Know that you're enough. That's come up. That's been a theme actually over the last number of weeks that we've run in the coffee at 11 show. Know that you're enough, because oftentimes people don't know they're enough, and all they need to be is enough. And you've said it several times through today. Wonderful, 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 Sharon. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, who would like to ask Sharon the first question? Don't be shy. Sarah Ward, you are more than welcome, Sarah. You're live.
Hi Sharon, how are you?
Hello, Sarah.
I loved all of what you said, basically. I was delighted when you said you went walking and you try to connect with everyone. I'm exactly the same, and I get slagged for it from my son and my husband. I'm that type of person. I like to connect with people, you know. And regarding the last bit there, you are enough. I went through a phase where I wrote it on every mirror in the house.
Did you?
I just needed to know. It's a couple of years now, but basically I just needed to know you are enough, just to be, you know, kind of content in myself and know that I'm not kind of, you know, basically that I am enough. I think the work that you do is absolutely fantastic, and you are so beautiful inside, and you're obviously beautiful outside, but your inside, your heart and everything. I mean, that poem, I want to know where you got it and what's the name of it, and it's something that it rings bells with everything I do, and everything I believe, you know, because it doesn't matter what you drive or how much money you have or whatever. It's the person and the company and the enjoyment you get out of each other is what matters, you know. Too many people are kind of, you know, I mean, I used to drive a 15-year-old car and I used to get slagged, never get robbed. But I love this, and I didn't care of what it got me from A to B, and it was grand. It eventually died, but sure, listen, I love everything about today. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah, thank you for that. Sarah is one of our very regulars in the cafe. Thank you, Sarah, for being here every day. Usually first in. No, it's great. It's lovely. But thank you, Sarah, for being here. And she gets fully engaged in all the conversations, and then contributes like this when she's moved to. And she was clearly moved today. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Princess Shelley, who's going to tell us what's been on in the cafe while you and I were chatting. Sharon, Princess Shelley, you're live.
Hey Sharon,
Hi, Shelley.
thank you so much for that. And somewhat like Colm mentioned earlier on, I'm looking around at the cafe as people are listening to the different parts of the interview, and it's just so beautiful just to see that even though we've only got everyone's head and shoulders, you can see so much positive body language and this non-verbal communication that I'm so fond of when we're all in the same room, and you can still get it on this platform, and people are so engaged in listening to the great stuff you're delivering. Katrina, our editor-in-chief, she's joining us while she's at work, so during the interview she kind of has to go dark, and of course she was the first one in with a comment this morning. Katrina said, when you were talking about a dapper couple, Colm said that you're one half of a very dapper couple, and Katrina said, definitely the most dapper couple. I had the privilege of singing at Sharon and John's wedding. That's it, yeah. Multi-talented, our editor-in-chief. She had the privilege of singing at Sharon and John's wedding and have yet to see a more stylish couple. So she remembers that. So yeah, that's Katrina that came in with that. She came with something a little later on with the poem as well, which she loved. Then Tim, our head of guest services for today, there with his Cat Bailey. He has popped in there your Instagram and your Facebook links, Sharon, so people can access your platforms with that. So then Tim also added in after those platforms, when you guys were talking about Zoom and how great it is, he said the man on the train, which is something that Colm was often talking to, an opportunity, representing the opportunity, has become a man on Zoom. So, so it's great to know that that's transferable. So yeah, let's give it a little boost there for that. So Mia, who was a previous guest on the show, she's here in the cafe today. She's been with us a few times. Mia said, beautiful interview. I love the invitation. That was pivotal on my journey. Thank you. Love and sparkles, Mia. I love that. Love and sparkles. Isn't that lovely? So yeah, that was the poem, Sharon, wasn't it? Yes. So Mia is obviously familiar with that. And then Tim said, what a beautiful poem. Thank you, Sharon. And then Katrina popped in again and said, just after you'd finished the invitation, and everybody was just like so engaged and so in here with you. And Katrina said, now that is why I am a big fan of this lady, because you just had everybody for that. So Tim is actually, since we had started this little chat, he has popped in a link to that poem. So anybody looking for it, thank you for that, Tim. I love and want to encourage your letter writing. I myself am surrounded here by shelves of lots of writing sets, and like you, really appreciate the art of a handwritten letter. And I saw everybody's stance soften a little bit at the idea of getting something in the post. So I'm a fellow letter writer, and thank you very much for putting it out there. More people might actually do it. Thanks, Sharon. Is anybody else, if you're not too shy, and we haven't had so many wonderful questions answered, Breed is joining us from beautiful Dalkey, I think, if I remember rightly. Breed, you have a question for Sharon, and you're now live if you'd like to ask it.
Hi, Sharon. Not a question at all, really. Just more to say that you were born with a voice that soothes. And you were born into a profession that is you completely, because it's not really a profession, it's a complete life choice. But you're wonderful, and I really enjoyed listening to you. That voice I could listen to forever. It's so relaxing and so calming. I think I have to replay it before I go to sleep. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridge. Thank you very much for that. I think we said something similar. I think we did a little brief. You met the team yesterday, Sharon, and we all said something similar, that, oh, such a soothing voice you had as it ours then. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for your comments and questions. I'm delighted at this point to pass back to our host, Colm. Thank you very much.
And indeed, thank you, Princess Shelley. Yes, give Princess Shelley a round of applause for that for that segment. That's lovely. It's one of my favorite parts of the show, dare I say it, because I get to sit back and have a cup of coffee and just hear what's been going on in the cafe through all the various interactions, and then listen, Sharon, to your responses to other people coming in and honouring you, as opposed to questioning you. Oftentimes I'm asking people to come in with really hard questions for my guest. Nobody did today. They just came in and honoured you. So honoured your truth. So keep up the wonderful work. So Sharon Collopy, it's been our pleasure having you on the Coffee at 11 show today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, everybody, and thanks for being so lovely.
Our pleasure indeed. Don't go anywhere for a moment. Folks, let me just tell you what's going to happen tomorrow in the cafe on the Coffee at 11 show. I've got a guy coming in tomorrow. His name is David Tighe, T-I-G-H-E. And David is well known to people in Limerick. When I moved to Limerick in 1998, David was the managing director of Limerick's Live 95 FM, the radio station that serves the Midwest here. And he was a really well-known, really got it together type of guy. Sharon, you remember him back in the day quite.
I do.
And everything was going swimmingly. And then he got an offer to go and set up a radio station in Dublin. And he jumped ship and headed off to Dublin, originally from England, but living here in Clare, literally across the river here. And anyway, he went to Dublin and things began to fall apart very quickly, which was tragic because he'd gone in good faith and things fell apart. And the poor guy for the last probably decade has been in the wilderness. Sharon, you spoke about this before, in the wilderness trying to find his way back. I'm delighted to say that he's found his way back to the island of Ireland eventually. and he's now managing director of a radio station in Belfast. But he's going to join us on the show tomorrow, and I'd love if you would have the time to come in and honour him and his story tomorrow. That'd be wonderful. I want to thank the wonderful crew, Princess Shelley for producing the show, Tim Kelly for behaving, that's always, and acting up as head of guest services. Thank you for that, Tim. Katrina O'Brien for all the wonderful work she does in the background, for all her insightful comments, and my guest Sharon Collopy. So I will finish. No, in fact, I won't finish. I'm going to ask Sharon to do one last thing before we go. Sharon, if you don't mind, please. Mindfulness, etc. Would you give us a short 60-second course on mindful breathing, please?
Mindful breathing. Okay, so the best way to do mindfulness is to experience it. So if you're comfortable to, I'd invite you to just take a moment and just allow yourself to settle. And if you'd like to close your eyes, if you're comfortable to do so. And if not, that's okay. This is your time. Just lower your gaze. Allow your body now to fully soften and let go as you bring your awareness to the fact that you are breathing. Not changing your breath in any particular way, but just noticing the breath as it gently enters and then leaves your body. Being with the breath, allowing the breath to bring you into the here and the now. Here as you breathe in, now as you breathe out. Here as you breathe in, now as you breathe out. And as you notice the mind wander, as it invariably will, that's okay. It's the nature of the mind to wander. But every time you notice the mind wandering, just bringing your awareness and your attention back onto your breath. Being with your breath. Being present to this moment, to the here, to the now, to your body and how it's feeling. Noticing any areas of tension in the body where you may be holding on. And with each breath, allowing the body to soften and just to let go. Noticing the mind wandering, bringing awareness back to the breath, allowing the thoughts to flow, just like breath flows in and out, without attaching to them, without feeding them, just staying in this moment, staying within the breath, staying in the here and the now, and continuing to breathe in this way for just a moment or two, knowing that the breath is always with you. The breath, which is the source of life, strength, inner peace, and wisdom. Come to this sacred space, pause of Saras, especially in those times of overwhelm, fear, or anxiety. Being with the breath. So inviting you now, on a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and opening your eyes.
Sharon Collopy, namaste.